So, back in August of 1945, one single flight carrying a top-secret weapon kicked off a chain of events that would completely redefine warfare, science, and morality itself. What we're diving into today is the story of that scientific gamble that led to the bombing of Hiroshima. Everything from the physics that made it possible to the legacy it left behind for all of us.
We knew the world would not be the same. Now, those are the words of J. Robert Oppenheimer, the guy who was the scientific director of the whole Manhattan Project. And they really capture just how heavy this moment was. You see, this wasn't just about ending one war. It was the beginning of a totally new atomic age, an age that would be defined by this incredible, unprecedented power.
To really wrap our heads around the impact of Hiroshima, we've got to start with the weapon itself. I mean, this was not just a more powerful version of a regular bomb. No, this was a massive, fundamental leap in our ability to destroy things, and it was all born from a brand new understanding of physics. Think about how they described the Manhattan Project. It wasn't just building a weapon, they called it a harnessing of the basic power of the universe. That kind of language, well, it tells you everything. It shows a huge shift away from normal explosives to unlocking the immense energy that's locked inside the atom itself. And this was a massive, massive undertaking. We're talking about a price tag of over $2 billion for the Manhattan Project. It's been called the greatest scientific gamble in history for a reason. It was just an unheard of amount of money and brainpower, all focused on creating a single device that could wipe a city off the map.
So what did that gamble get them? Well, it got them a bomb, codenamed Little Boy, that had more explosive power than 20,000 tons of TNT. Now, to put that in perspective for you, this single bomb unleashed more destructive force than all of the bombs that were dropped on London during the entire Blitz combined. Just mind-boggling. So what was the official objective? Well, as President Truman laid it out, the goal was to completely and totally destroy Japan's ability to keep fighting the war. The intended targets were supposed to be military and industrial sites, docks, factories, communication hubs, all to bring the conflict to a fast and decisive end. Okay, so the weapon is developed, the objective is defined, and now that scientific gamble becomes a military operation. So let's shift our focus to the mission itself and follow the crew of the B-29 bomber, the Enola Gay, on their flight straight into the history books. When you listen to the radio communications from the start of the mission, it sounds so routine, so procedural. It really could be any other military flight. Except, of course, it was carrying the most destructive weapon ever created. And with those simple words, "You're clear for takeoff," this irreversible journey began. On the way there, every single detail was checked and double-checked. The weather over the target? Clear. Visibility? Excellent. The payload, Little Boy, was confirmed as armed and ready, with its safety mechanisms switched off. Every single step was precise, clinical, and just methodically moving towards that one singular, destructive moment. And then came the final approach. At an altitude of 31,000 feet, the Enola Gay lined up its target, the very distinctive T-shaped Ioi Bridge. It was a landmark they chose specifically to make sure the bomb would go off right over the city's center. And then, the two words that sealed Hiroshima's fate: bomb away. From a technical point of view, the mission was a success. The human cost, however, was about to become terrifyingly real. And just like that, in an instant, the mission's clinical precision up in the sky unleashed an unimaginable hell on the ground below. For the people of Hiroshima, the reality of that moment was something else entirely. The final casualty count, and this includes all the people who died from radiation in the weeks and months that followed, would be more than 130,000 people. That's a population roughly the size of a modern mid-sized city, just decimated by a single weapon. The human cost was absolutely staggering. Just days before, President Truman had actually warned Japan to surrender, or, he said, expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth. The devastation in Hiroshima was the fulfillment of that very promise, and it showed the world the terrifying new power it now had to face. News about what happened trickled out really slowly at first. 16 hours after the Enola Gay took off, the White House announced that a single, powerful bomb had been dropped. And soon after, reports confirmed that Hiroshima was just engulfed in fire, with the first estimates putting immediate deaths at over 78,000. The entire world was struggling to even comprehend this completely new scale of destruction.
You see, the bombing didn't just end a war. It opened up this profound moral debate that honestly continues to this day. Was this new power a curse on humanity? Or was it, as some argued, a terrible but necessary tool that ultimately saved lives?
This quote, it just perfectly captures the complicated reaction of the scientists who actually built the bomb as they watched its first test detonation. It wasn't some simple moment of triumph. There were all these mixed emotions. But for most of them, there was just silence. The awesome and terrible weight of their creation had just become undeniable.
And this whole conflict is just perfectly embodied by these two figures. On one side, you have the creator, J. Robert Oppenheimer, who famously recalled a line from Hindu scripture, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." And then on the other side, you have the leader, President Truman, who had a much more pragmatic view. He said he saw it as a blessing, a weapon that could finally win the war. And right there, that's the central conflict, the philosophical burden versus the political justification.
And all of this leaves us with one final, essential question. There's no doubt the bomb was a decisive factor in ending World War II. But that scientific gamble that created it also pushed us all into the atomic age, a brand new world living under a new kind of shadow. And what that means for us, even today, well, that's something worth thinking about.